Hello, beautiful souls. Today we are going to dive into the poem Embracing Courage. We're going to talk about, the story behind the words and just kind of dive a little bit deeper into the idea of embracing courage and what that might mean for you. I'm going to share a little bit of my story too. So let's dive into it, shall we? We're going to first cover the entire poem and then we're going to break it down for you so that, you can really absorb the medicine of the words with me here today. So, without further ado, embracing courage. Hello, my sweet souls. What's the story today? The story is about a feeling called courage, how it tried to escape. It tried to escape because it was scared. It was scared because it was feeling unprepared. It was feeling unprepared so it could not shine bright. You see, my sweet souls, this is the thing about courage. It never comes out when it's feeling discouraged. It keeps itself distant, lurking at the door. It lacks the confidence to stand strong. It's often ignored. It's often ignored because it comes off too brave. Its idea is too scary. It would rather act afraid. It would rather act afraid because the risk feels too real. It questions whether it will be worth it. Will it be worth the thrill? So you see, my sweet souls, instead of taking brave action, courage sits back, decides to find a distraction. The more time that passes, the longer it takes until one day courage decides it's done taking a break. This often happens when the earth starts to shatter beneath its feet, leaving life one big question to seek. Since the ground feels unstable, it decides to act fast. Courage knows there's no holding back. So I can assure you, my sweet souls, this is not a story about how courage stayed locked up tight. No, this is a story about how courage lined up for the fight. It was up for the fight because it knew it had so much to gain. So it took one big step forward to escape the unbearable pain. Now I know the big question is, did courage win a battle or two, or did it get So I know the big question now is, did courage win a battle or two? Did it get rewarded for its brave action, or did it completely lose? But you see, my sweet souls, this isn't the point. There is nothing to lose and only so much to gain. Because even if courage falls down a time or two again, courage will always pick itself up and never lose. It will get stronger and stronger, braver and braver, until one day it will look back and realize it was its own savior. You see, my sweet souls, we just need a little courage from time to time to move forward and live life by the way we design. And let's get into it, shall we? Let's talk about courage, what it takes, and just kind of get into the words of the poem. So let's start from the top. So the first few lines that I want to cover is, hello, my sweet souls. What's the story today? The story is about a feeling called courage, how it tried to escape. It tried to escape because it was scared. It was scared because it was feeling unprepared. It was feeling unprepared so it could not shine bright. I feel like this poem is very self-explanatory, and I'm honestly having a little bit of a hard time centering into how I can go a little bit deeper into that. But what I would say is that, we try to put our fears aside and therefore don't step into the courageous action that we are supposed to be taking in life. We often let fear dictate what we're going to do in our life rather than find the courage to face those fears. And so yes, it's, the courage doesn't shine bright inside of us. We're not stepping into courageous action because we're letting our fears dictate what we're going to be doing instead. And that's, you know, a large part of it isn't really our fault. A lot of the time, this is what I'd say Western society has taught us to do, is to stay stagnant in our desires, in our fears, and just not really step into the courage. And yeah, so, you know, those first few lines are really just about, you know, how courage kind of takes a back seat a lot of the time in our lives. The next one is, you see, my sweet souls, this is the thing about courage. It never comes out when it's feeling discouraged. It keeps itself distant, lurking at the door. It lacks the confidence to stand strong. It's often ignored. When you are trying to do something new, when you have a vision for yourself, when you have a knowing within yourself that you are meant to do something greater than where you're meant to be, something greater than what you are right now. You know, I don't even really like using greater. I want something different, but I think that a lot of the time we can have this calling within ourselves that it's like, where you're at isn't it. I know that's the feeling that I had inside of me all my life. I would jump from job to job to job, and there was a lot of times where I was absolutely fucking miserable, to be honest. I would be at a job and I would just be absolutely miserable with what I was doing because I knew that there was something else for me. That wasn't it. But the problem with having a vision, the problem with having an idea to do something different is that oftentimes the people around you can't see that vision. And so it's hard to find the encouragement you need from others. Sometimes you have to become your own advocate. You have to become your own cheerleader in life. You have to learn to center yourself into your own vision and know when you're ready to step forward with courage. And so I think, yeah, those lines are just really kind of about, you know, how it keeps itself distant from moving, how you keep yourself distant from moving forward. And, you know, yeah, courage doesn't tend to come out when it's feeling discouraged. But, you know, it's about finding the right type of energy, finding the right type of people around you that are yes, going to be cheerleaders for you, but also becoming your own cheerleader. And so that is kind of my takeaway with those lines. So the next lines are, it is often ignored because it comes off too brave. Its idea is too scary, so it would rather act afraid. It would rather act afraid because a risk feels too real. It questions whether it will be worth it. Will it be worth the thrill? And so those lines are really like about us questioning ourselves. You know? Obviously, there's going to be fear there, right? When you're stepping into something that is unknown to you, it is very normal to feel fear. Everybody goes through this. Nobody had in the history of people moving forward and doing something different, there is always going to be fear there. But there's also this pull at your heart where there, you know, there's going to be a concept of a thrill, whether that is finding a deeper sense of acceptance for oneself by making new connections, whether that is knowing that you're putting your work out there, you're laying your heart on the line and allowing people to see the real you, whether that is creating abundance for yourself. Whatever it is for you. Whether that is getting out of a toxic situation that you know is no longer serving you. But there's always going to be unknown, and courage is about stepping into that unknown. So the next few lines are, so you see, my sweet souls, instead of taking brave action, courage sits back and decides to find a distraction. The more time that passes, the longer it takes until one day courage decides it's done taking a break. Every single time I read these lines, I have like this vision of like courage sitting back and just like watching Netflix. Because that's really, you know, probably one of our greatest examples in today's society, where we learn to waste time on the things that we desire because we lack the courage to step into ourselves at the full capacity. And, you know, I think one thing that I really want to say here is that none of us have it all figured out at the start. The figuring it out, the stepping into who we're supposed to be, that comes with the time spent in front of the camera. It comes with the time spent navigating and trying to figure out who we are. Now, I do believe in divine timing. I think sometimes we can push ourselves into things where we're not really quite ready to take that next step, because we do live in this instantaneous world, and we believe that, like, you know, let's just get there already kind of thing. I do think that there is a knowing within ourselves that, okay, I'm ready to take that next step. But on the flip side, what we often do is we distract ourselves from really moving forward. And so, you know, those lines are really just, you know, an opportunity to look at courage a little bit and say, okay, where am I not taking courageous action? Am I looking for distractions? Am I spending too much time doing this or that, watching TV, you know, listening to other people's podcasts when I should be focusing on my own thing? Wherever you're at right now, is there courageous action that you could be taking to, you know, align yourself with your goals, you know? So that's kind of where those lines are coming into play. And so the next one is, this often happens when so until one day courage decides it's done taking a break, was the last line. And it says, this often happens when the earth starts to shatter beneath its feet, leaving life one big question to seek. Since the ground feels unstable, it decides to act fast. Courage knows there's no holding back. And so this really speaks to the breaking point that a lot of us experience in life. A lot of the time when we are, you know, really moving in a direction that isn't in alignment to our soul, we need like an earth-shattering moment in our lives to really step into courage and be like, okay, something has got to change. And, you know, this can look like divorce. This can look like massive financial problems. If you're somebody that struggles with, you know, navigating your financial aspect of your life, you know, this can look like so many different things, but oftentimes we end up allowing the world to scream at us before we really truly start making changes in our lives. And of course, this can be changed. This can be something that you can work on, being a little bit more proactive instead of reactive in life. But yeah, you know, that line really speaks to the fact that a lot of the time we really need the earth to start shattering beneath our feet before we really start to take action in a new way. So the next line is, so I can assure you, my sweet souls, this is not a story about how courage stayed locked up tight. No, this is a story about how courage lined up for the fight. It was up for the fight because it knew it had so much to gain, so it took one big step forward to escape the unbearable pain. And so, yeah, it just kind of speaks a little bit more deeper into that. You know, you're probably in pain. There's probably something that has to be looked at there. And, you know, because it's become so severe, now you need to, you know, really take a look and start making some changes and step into that change. So I know the big question now is, did courage win a battle or two? Did it get rewarded for its brave action? Or did it completely lose? But you see, my sweet souls, this isn't the point. There's nothing to lose and only so much to gain. Because even if courage falls down a time or two again, it will pick itself back up and never lose. It will get stronger and stronger, braver and braver, until one day it will look back and realize it was its own savior. You see, my sweet souls? We just need a little bit of courage from time to time to move forward and live life by the way we design. Oh, I love the way this poem ended, because it really speaks into the truth of us being the creator of our own reality. And when we find the courage to move forward in a new way, what we will find is courage comes into our existence more freely. We come to realize that our failures are not failures at all. They're just moments that didn't work out, moments that we needed to learn something new. And the more we step into that courage, the more we step into our heart's calling, the more we step into the things that we know that we are being called to do, the easier we create our new reality. Whether that's your personal reality or whether that is something that is on more of a universal scale. You see, we are powerful. We are the creators of this world. And so I just want you to really sit with those last few lines and realize that, you know, the fear that is holding you back is really just the fear of the unknown. And it's normal. It's normal to feel that way. But when you learn to step, you know, it doesn't have to be a huge step, but take a baby step in a new direction, whether that means learning something new or whether that means physically making a change in your life. Sometimes, you know, knowledge is power, and sometimes that new step is just taking the time to assess and learn something new about yourself, about your circumstance. But the more you find the courage to change in a positive direction and create the life that you desire, the more the world is going to change around you too. And so with that, I am going to leave it at that. And I just want to thank you for joining me on this episode. Much love. Have a wonderful day.